Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America, brought to you by Accuracy in Academia. I'm Don Irvine, your host, joined by my co-host, Brian McNichol.
Hello, deplorables, drags, despicables, chumps, Neanderthals, semi-fascists, and of course those dog-faced pony soldiers.
That's right. All right. So, weather. I always like to talk about weather. It's a little cold.
We're not allowed to say bad words on this show, so this will be a short discussion. It's good for the golf course, right? They get the those roots buried in ice a little bit. It makes it come up a little greener. We haven't had this kind of snow on the ground here in DC in like 3 years, right?
Well, I
Years.
looked up yesterday. The official tally for DC was 728 days. I think Baltimore was 716, and I didn't bother. But yeah, I mean, and it has to be 1 inch. And so basically, it was 728 days since we last had 1 inch of measurable snow on the ground. And I think for me personally, it was definitely a little more than I expected.
Yeah.
And kind of threw me off. I mean, I guess it's good that the first wave of this came in on a federal holiday, and then so schools only really lost 1 day, though. I think I heard, I guess Montgomery County even closed today after doing 2 hours. So sometimes they adjust their policy. So it could have it's been an extended holiday for school kids and everything like that. But it's not just the snow, though. I mean, snow in, say, if it's it hovers around 25 or 30 degrees after that, that's livable. But when you're getting snow and you're getting into the low teens or single digits, that's just way too cold for me.
Yeah, we're not here for that. That's not how we roll.
Right. And look, and I'm a certified morning gym rat. I go and I have a regular routine. I get up early in the morning, hit the gym by 5 a.m., do my thing for an hour or so, and then come back home. And Monday morning I woke up and I really wasn't thinking about snow, and I was just kind of doing the stuff I normally do. And since it's dark, I didn't look out the window. So I'm all dressed up in gym gear and whatever, get everything ready, and I step outside the door and I'm like, whoa, what happened here?
Yeah, holy cow, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, it doesn't look too bad, but walked to the car and I thought, so I had a Gold's Gym that was a little over a mile away from the house. Days like this didn't really bother me when I'm a mile and a half away, but now my gym is it's a 6 mile drive. There's mostly major roads, but I thought, do they clean the parking lot over there? I don't really know the routine over there because it's new to me. We've only been going there since August. And I'm like, nah, I'm just not going to do it. I mean, not that the street needed to be plowed, but I feel better if it had been plowed. So, and then, yesterday, I mean, it was cold and everything. I thought, now I'm just, I'm going to let this go one more day and let this all kind of clear out. And then, so I was back at the gym this morning, but it was sparse. I mean, you think everybody had taken a vacation and gone away for a Christmas holiday. It was more. There were more people there during the Christmas holidays than there was today. I mean, it was like, where is everybody? But I mean, if you're dealing with 9 to 12 degree temperatures, and who knows, maybe because kids are delayed 2 hours as of earlier this morning, maybe all those kinds of things start to factor in and kind of throw people's routines off enough. But yeah, I don't know. It's just too cold, and the snow doesn't really melt very fast in this weather and stuff like that. And of course, so I'm thinking like, okay, this is great, but I didn't, I forgot the day before to do the planning, to do the thing I had promised myself to do, which was to open up the box with the snowblower that my kids had given me in July of 2022. And so I got out there in the garage and I take it out and I'm like, yeah, I bet I got to charge these batteries. So that was going to be about 2 hours plus. And but I had to go out yesterday and I'm like, not quite fully charged yet and everything like this. And So I was out there. My wife's had this really bad cold or whatever, but she feels like she's been cooped up in the house for days. So even with this hacking cough and everything, she was out there shoveling snow with me and basically cleared the driveway. And I'm telling my son, it's like, I'm getting ready. I'm going to use the gift that you arranged and all that stuff. And later on, he's like, so how was it? I said, well, your mom wanted to get some fresh air. And so we didn't really get a chance to use it. And she's like, man, a bummer. So we're getting there. It's assembled. Batteries are charged.
Yeah, it looks like you might get another chance this weekend too.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how this goes. And I will look forward to that. Be able just to run this little electric sucker down, up and down, and do this. But I think it says it gives you about 30 minutes of use. So I'm like, I think I can get most of what I need to get done in 30 minutes.
Absolutely.
So anyway, so I'm that'll save a lot on my back and just other things. Just at my age, it's like I don't need to overly exert myself shoveling snow. We've seen too many tragedies occur with people shoveling snow. So I'll be looking forward to those days and make my son happy that we finally used his gift. I think I was a little more concerned that after sitting in a box for a year and a half that nothing was going to work right.
One of the things when we moved where we live now is, one of our chief things was we're not responsible for one bit that goes on outside the door. We don't mow grass, we don't shovel snow, we don't do any of that stuff. Right. So,
yeah, and that works out great, especially when you've got management maintenance, which makes sure that they take care of those responsibilities in a good, timely fashion. I had somebody drop by last night, and he was asking me, and he lives a little closer, kind of towards Laytonsville, so you kind of know the layout. So it's a little further out, and it's a little more country, little more rural in some sections, and I said, most of the time the plow will come by early in the morning, like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and do it. They didn't quite come by that early yesterday, but he says he was amazed because he says, you remember the last big snow we had? He says it took him 5 days to get to my house. I'm like, wow. That didn't happen here. I mean, it's like for whatever reason, it's like our neighborhood is fairly high on the list to get cleaned up. I'm not complaining. Maybe it's because we're paying outrageously high property taxes in this neighborhood. Bigger homes, more taxes. Better make sure they get their streets plowed. I'm grateful that it was a relatively non-event. I don't have to drive in it, unless I need to go to the store. I don't have to go to work and go, doing the commute thing and all that. So I don't. Those are the things I don't miss about that. But then, we look at other parts of the country that got, absolutely slammed. And I'm like, I'm glad I don't live there. One of my friends, was saying, it's like, I guess you're not moving to Utah anytime soon. I'm like, yeah, no. Utah's winters, I don't like them.
Yeah. Salt Lake City is the coldest winter among America's major cities. It is.
But I think I thought it was warmer in Salt Lake than it was here, right?
Might have been, in this one, but it was down around 10 degrees this morning.
And obviously Utah, the area that's known for, because of the mountains and the skiing, that's part of their economy is that they need that, they want that.
Right.
Think about
they can have that.
Yeah, they can have it. I mean, I as a kid I loved it. As an adult, the older I get, the more I hate it, and just because it means more on me, or I'll have to pay somebody potentially or whatever to do all these tasks. But yeah, you look around, and in the school system, one of my friends is from Omaha, and he was talking on Saturday night. He said it was 18 degrees below in Omaha, and they were going to school. He says, I don't get it. He says, here they're calling off school for rain.
Right. They've done that twice now in Fairfax County. They've called off school for rain.
Yeah.
And
so, I don't know. I mean, look,
there's one of them was a Saturday.
Yeah.
Right. So the theory, you're not canceling classes, but there's all this community use. And, in my case, it costs us a basketball game.
Right.
But there's cost of that. That's got to be made up. That's it doesn't just go away.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just are have we, has society, I mean, these administrators or whatever, are they making our kids soft on this? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you can go to school and this stuff. I mean, you could go to school. I mean, as they went today, we had 2-hour delay here.
yeah,
But I mean, it's this whole, if anything happens, stop and overreact, right? And it's part of the COVID mindset, I saw on your list of, it's come out that, and I already knew this because I had read about this, that, the 6 feet, stay 6 feet away was completely made up. There was no scientific basis. They said, at one point I heard that Fauci was in a conversation with people about this, and they said, well, we think 3 feet. He goes, I'll just double it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Just a toss over my shoulder decision that cost people millions of dollars, right? I mean, that was a huge thing having to create. That's why the schools had to close. I mean, they could have gotten them 3 feet apart, but they couldn't get them 6 feet apart, right? That was the excuse they gave. Remember, we can't,
right.
We don't have room for this. Okay. So, I mean, that was a consequential toss over the shoulder, BS, made up science decision that this guy just pulled out of wherever and shut down school for 1.5 years.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because my thoughts, and I don't know what it was like for you growing up in Louisiana, but growing up here, I didn't live far enough away under the rules in force at the time to get bused to any of my schools, whether
Me either.
Elementary, middle, or high school. Apparently, there's the furthest corner of my neighborhood would have been the only house that would have qualified at the time. Now we see, I mean, now a huge majority of kids are bused to school, right? And it's okay, so we're busing them to school. How they clear the roads. How bad is this? I was walking to school through snow. Come on.
Right. And the thing about that, when you're running a school system now, your big thing in your life is managing risk and keeping them from getting sued. So it's if one bus slips off the road somewhere, it's okay, but you have 180,000 kids in this school system. There's a lot of interest there that you're throwing away, that you're disregarding.
Yeah, I understand too. I mean, I'm not. Is that when you're running these large county school systems, you are having to deal with the entire county. You can't say these schools are open, these schools are on delay,
right.
And these schools are closed. Everything has to be.
It affects both of our counties because, there's times when in Silver Spring you could go to school, but in Damascus maybe not.
Right.
Times where you could go to school in Mount Vernon or Springfield, but out here where I am, maybe not.
Yeah.
Oakton, so forth.
So I understand that they seemingly, at least from Montgomery County, are making the decisions about school openings a lot faster, earlier than they used to. They used to,
which is good and bad too, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
earlier, but you make some wrong decisions because you didn't,
Right. But I do think what you were just saying earlier here is that I really think what we're seeing though now is a lot of a COVID mentality has now permanently ingrained itself in these decisions. And
right. So it's these the two snow closures, not this one, but the ones before, right? Those were both on days when the weather people got it right. They said, we're near the snow line, but we're below it. And we're going to get a bunch of rain, but we're not going to get any snow. And they were clear on that for days in advance. And the schools closed anyway because of snow. Now, either they lied or they disregarded the forecast or something, but they had the information that told them, it's going to be a rainy, nasty day. But hey, winter is rainy, nasty days. And in the case of the Saturday, right, your school buses are not at risk. You're not busing kids to school. You had probably some people bus to activities and whatnot, but for the most part, your bus fleet was parked for the day. So that was just a we're mom and dad and we decide what's good for you type of decision.
Right. All right. I spent way too much time on this, but it was a pet peeve. It's just one of those things that was driving me crazy. I don't even have any kids in the school system anymore, but it just drives me nuts. All right. So news. We got plenty of things to try to run through. So the U.S. So Biden, after having taken the Houthis off the terrorist organization watch list, destination list back in February of 2021, looks like he's ready to put him back on there. Should they have ever been off this list to begin with?
No, I mean this was a thing they did to their view is that what we need to do is appease Iran, right? We need to do enough nice things to Iran that Iran says, okay, you're nice guys, and we will treat you as nice guys, right? That's never going to happen, right? They're not kidding about the great Satan business, right? They mean that. That's what they think of as it's not going to change. They're going to do everything they can to undermine us because they see us as the force that represents what they're against, right? And so, pluralism, everybody gets a say in things. Women are valued. We don't throw you off a building for being gay, right? Those are things of the West that they are fighting, right? And they're not going to stop fighting it, right? They're not our friends, and they undermine us in every way they possibly can. So Trump, he dropped the forever effort to get a two-state solution, right, which we're never going to get. And he said, the troublemakers in the world are the Iranians, right? They're who keeps the Middle East upset. They're who funds terrorism and so forth all over the world. Okay, so they said, okay, that's our, as soon as Biden became president, he said, Iran is our friend. He tore up the Abraham Accords. I mean, imagine this. I mean, think about this. We're in our 60s, right? We're talking about planes flying from Riyadh to Tel Aviv. It was like, if you're younger than us, it's hard to even describe how massive a shift in thinking and geopolitical strategy and all that it required to get to that point, right? That's an enormous accomplishment that the Saudis, the home of Islam, and the Jews were cooperating, right, against the real troublemakers, the Iranians, right? And the other Arab states fell in line behind the Saudis. We had the whole of Arabia aligned with the Jews against Iran, and he destroyed all of that. And part of that was, taking the Houthis off the list. And the Houthis like, no, we want to be on your list. What do we have to do to get back on your list? And they have been going, checking the boxes as quickly as they can. And they now have reached the point where they are actively attacking U.S. flag vessels in the Red Sea. Our Navy cannot keep shipping lanes open anymore. Stop and think about that. We used to be able to project power all over the world with our Navy, and now we cannot. We don't have a solution for this. So, yeah, it's nice that we got them back on the list, but the world came to depend on us to protect shipping, to protect commerce. And yeah, there's other people who can do it, but if we do it, we have some assurance that it's being done right and humane and as humane a way as possible and so forth. If we forego that, if we say, okay, we'll let China, whoever, deal with this, then when we get ready to use shipping lanes, we have to deal with them, right? We have to deal with China. And now, I guess in the last day or so, you've had missiles actually coming from Iran and hitting, our consulate in Erbil, Iraq, right? So the Iranians are looking at what the Houthis are getting away with, and they're saying, America does not have the will to fight us right now. I guess you saw the front page of the Washington Post this morning. The story's like, Biden's having trouble quelling the violence. It's like, this is not some street protest, guys. These people are attacking us. They're shooting weapons. They're shooting missiles at our facility. Right? This is not quelling the violence. This is not, you imagine them taking their signs and locking them up overnight. We're in a different world now, and they don't seem to get it. And they're still selling their your supplicant media on, their version of this. This is the worst foreign policy team that I can remember. They're even worse than the Carter people.
Yeah, it's pretty bad what's happened in foreign policy
It's
during
a
the Biden.
disaster.
Yeah, I try to be fair about this, but this is bad,
Yeah.
and everything. And it's a little simplistic, but the thing is too is that I mean the Houthis are the ones that started these attacks on these ships. So the U.S. and the U.K. They get together and they start like, so we're going to defend this. We're going to provide some protection. We're going to fight back. And then the Houthis says, well, it's like how dare you attack us? We're going to step this up. It's like, this is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's an economic cost, right? I mean, if the vessels that are carrying oil and all these, they can't get through and they've got to find other ways of doing it that, delay shipments, adds to the expense. This is not good at all. But I just can't get away from things. And as I think about Biden foreign policy, it's things like this that show, I think how emboldened the other side is. The enemies are.
They look at us and they see a weak, doddering old man and clueless Jake Sullivan and Blinken, we're not really even sure what side he's on. He seems to be sort of a Chinese favoring type of guy. That's our team. That's our front line. The defense secretary disappears for weeks to go have something done at the hospital, and it's weeks before we notice he's gone. I mean, this is a clown show, and it's one thing to have a clown show at the Department of Interior, right? Or Department of Transportation or whatever. It's bad, but it's a different realm than a clown show, national security, and defense. Like, we're in real trouble. The question now is, do we make it to the end of the year till we can get, Trump back in office or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, this is to me just another instance of where, had Trump been in office, this wouldn't have happened.
None of this would have happened.
Yeah.
Because the Arabs would have stayed united against Iran. Iran would have had to stay in its box, and it would have known that they don't have the capability to go against us, right? We would be projecting force.
Yeah, I mean, the problems in the Middle East, I mean, I think squarely on our, when you look at our foreign policy, it just gives them an opening. I mean, we've seen North Korea become more aggressive, and we see China, what they want to do and stuff like that. So you just have all these things that are out there. Yeah, I mean, if I'm Trump, I want to make sure I remind people about the foreign policy disaster Biden administration and the safety of America being at risk. If we have further, another term of Biden-Harris, should Biden even survive that long, that type of thing. Right. But this administration, people they put in there, was a complete disaster from head to toe. So
yeah, they got to go.
All right, I want just your feelings about the elections in Taiwan. I mean, good. That's not what China wanted, but I didn't think that China was going to get what they wanted to begin with. Are we going to see more of this kind of just this tension between Taiwan and China now with its new presidency?
I thought the early reaction was kind of measured, right? Like you say, it's obvious they did not get what they wanted, right? But so far they're sort of, okay, we didn't get what we wanted, right? I don't know. I mean, it looks like weakness, but I mean, there's a Rubicon you cross there. China's got some problems itself, right? China came here asking for money a few months ago. So, their birth rate has nosedived. Their revenues are down. Their government's, overcommitted like ours is, right? They've entered a kind of economic death spiral. So, they kind of have some internal problems, and they have a lot of military capabilities. Part of the reason that they have overspent is because they've spent a ton of money on military stuff. They've also spent on the Belt and Road Initiative, which appears to be collapsing, right? Another thing, they built all this commercial and residential real estate all over the country that's collapsing. They're just having to knock it down because there's no one can use it. So you've got a lot of, they've made a lot of, this is, the point that we should make as conservatives in the United States is, we're run, our country is run for better or for worse, and often for worse, by lawyers, right? Basically lawyers and people affiliated with lawyers, right? But there it's run by engineers. And so this is all the engineers, all the smart people sitting down and planning. Now you would think that like if all the smart people sat down and planned, you'd get good plans, right? But that's not what happens, right? The planning, their commitment to this kind of planning, to like planning the economy and planning the spending and so forth, is one of their biggest problems. It's the plans blow up, right? So here it's more organic. It's like the plan is, I own this land, I develop it, I get the local government on board or whatever, you own your land, you do whatever with it, right? But is the decentralized decision making is better than collective decision making, right? That's getting shown over and over in this case. So, I don't know. I am a little less worried than I guess the average bear about them attacking Taiwan, because I don't think they have the wherewithal to handle the blowback right now. I think they're better off letting it ride.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reaction, also, as you said, is measured, and it does. It goes. We talked about some of the issues of China's having last week, and that report that came out about their population decline. It's kind of stunning in a way. I mean, they took the cap off the one-child policy, right? And they can't get anybody to have babies. I mean,
right?
And they have
them to do something else.
Yeah, this country, when we were kids, which everybody was talking about, was this massive potential population explosion. That's why you had the big movement of zero population growth and all these kind of things. Is that even with the one-child policy, China was still going to grow. But now we're seeing economic realities come into play, and
the other big reality that's come into play is, when they went with the one-child policy, it's like, if you're going to get old and you can only have one child, you want a boy or a girl, right? Probably want a boy that can do more stuff to help you, they have more earning power and all that kind of stuff. So they literally threw away the girls, right? If I only get one shot at this, and I get pregnant and it's a girl's got to go. I got to hold out to get a boy, right? So they literally threw away their girls. So now, like in the United States, it's about 105 females, 104 females for every male, right? In China, it's 119. Okay, that's a huge statistical difference. That means that these guys go, 119 male for every 100 females. So that means, every girl in China is on the run, basically, right?
Right. Well, yeah, and the thing is that there's a whole change in the world, but definitely, in watching Asia, being of Japanese heritage, my wife being Korean, my daughter-in-law is Filipino, but I mean, if you talk about the Far East of of China, Japan, and Korea in particular, the mindset has changed where you didn't have, 50 years ago, you didn't have a lot of working women, in those countries. We were moving faster towards that end than Asia was. But now, if you look at Asia, which has got a very, very big problem with the birth rate, a lot of these young women, they're career, oriented, right. And they have. It's almost as if there's almost no amount of money that the government could throw at them that would convince them they need to have a baby. And there's not a big movement towards marriage. So, right. The institution of marriage has taken a big hit. There are fewer babies being born. These countries are having problems. I mean, Japan is definitely, a big case for this, because you've got that aging population, particularly in the countryside, and there's nobody to take care of them. How many stories have we seen of senior citizen homes where senior citizens are the main workers taking care of the senior citizens?
Yeah.
Right. That's not, that doesn't happen here. It may yet happen here at some point in time, because, our birth rate is declining, but we haven't reached the critical level that Japan and Korea have. And obviously now with the turn back here in China, they have a big problem. I mean, I'm sure, as I know as a kid, there's no way in heck I ever thought that that China's population would actually start to shrink.
Yeah. So the other thing is like courtship, the whole boys getting girls and girls getting boys, right, thing is under assault, right? There's gay LGBTQ movement. There's careers. There's idolizing career over and disparaging homemakers and so forth. I mean, there's a lot of social factors, but it's all over the world. And it's like I watch my kids go through high school, and there's very little boyfriend girlfriend drama, right? They just it's not just them. It's like the kids around them. It's like it's not a thing, and part of it is like porn, right? The guys watch porn, so they're like, I just go up to a girl and say, let's do it, and she will do it, right? And the girl's like, no, right? So okay, I don't know about this being nice to her and taking her on dates and buying her ice cream and somewhere down the line, because when you watch porn, it's like there's no ice cream, right? They're just straight at it, right? Yeah. So I mean, that's part of the destructive nature of that. Okay. So, there's a lot of stuff going on vitiating against, and I as you saw that, like beer consumption is down 24% from last year, 2 years ago, come down a quarter in 2 years. Right. Okay. So, beer leads to a lot of courtship, right? I mean, it does. And
put in alcohol, it can a lot of things.
Right, all kinds of like things can happen that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Okay, so I mean, we're getting into a tighter, more sober, but less happy. There's a big, a lot of data out there about loneliness, and what Chris Murphy, the senator from Connecticut, is working on legislation to deal with the problem specifically of loneliness, right? And of course, he has big government solutions to it. But I think it's interesting that like somebody in Congress is finally looking at this and saying, what do we do about it? And the cell phones and all that stuff, we're very atomized, right? You can at once reach everyone in the world and be isolated from everyone in the world. You're your own thing. So, and people crawl down these rat holes, and so the communal aspects of life are all under assault, especially courtship, especially, mating and so forth. So, we're going to have to find out, how long can humans survive if they're not doing the things they've been doing for thousands of years to reproduce, right? We may figure out another way to reproduce, but, you're asking for big change in a very tight, small period of time.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have just moved so far along a continuum. I mean, who knows what the effect that artificial intelligence will have on these types of things. I mean, this is becoming this is taking over a lot of things in the corporate world at this point in time. But when I think about the world, a lot of times I think about the 50s, and 60s, where there were these more traditional courtships where marriages, people got married. There was a lot of this kind of stuff, and this has become less and less and less over the years. And, our country's could potentially run into the same problems that these countries in Asia have. I mean, I have a couple of friends, that I know from church and have known for a long time. They're a couple of sisters. They are, I guess they're probably in their 50s by now or somewhere in that range. Never, not married. There are no kids. And the thought comes to me every once in a while is that there are a lot of people in this boat, both male and female,
right,
that have never been married, that are now going to their 40s and 50s and whatnot. Who takes care? Who's the potential caretaker of them? Right. Should they become incapacitated? Also, who makes the final arrangements when they pass away? Some of these things that we have kind of just assumed are not, they're not there anymore. Where there's not that little family safety net.
That's one thing the Chinese had going for them is a lot of there's no Social Security or anything like that in China, right? Yeah. There's no pension. So you get too old to work, your family has to take care of you. It's the only way out of it. So, that tend to keep the families closer together. And, you had grandparents living in your home, which, I think I think that's a great thing if you can pull it off, right? It's, it's sort of, people may say Crimster style or whatever, but that's generations of learning and generations of perspective and so forth that you have, and additional people who love your kids, right? So that's a lot. There's a lot there that's being lost, and here it's like we've socialized it. We've said, okay, we'll write you a little check every month, and so you don't really need your family, and we'll give you housing, and we'll do reverse mortgages, and we'll do all this stuff, and where you don't actually have to have that. But I mean, it's not it's not just the check, right? It's that there's no one who cares about you. So now what we're essentially doing is, we're paying for home health care. We're paying for, we're essentially paying people to go visit old people, right? And Montgomery County has a big program, and that's what that program does, is paying people to go keep these people company for some period of time every day, right? So, I mean, there's an enormous need, and governments are seeing it and trying to respond to it, right? But that's what it is. The families are breaking apart, and it's causing a bunch of problems that, we're episodically sort of trying to fix them, but we don't really understand them, and we're definitely not addressing any of the causes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the percentage is, but like in Utah, a lot of the houses, at least the ones that have been probably built in the last 20 years or so, there's a lot of them built with in-law suites. And who are the in-laws? The in-laws are the grandparents, in essence, for the kids.
All right.
They kind of a thing of, so when they get either when one or both get they slow down, they really can't operate on their own. Having a little place where they've got just a room and just some of the basics, and they can then eat with the family or do some other things, and they, the kids can watch over their parents or their in-laws and do that. My cousin did that with his parents, and they lived there for a number of years before they passed on. And now it's just a guest room, right? Yeah. So, but we don't see that. I mean, it's like you're saying. I mean, this is very uncommon, and yet, because kind of the tendency is with most Americans is that when their parents get a little frail, is that you look for the nearest nursing home rather than thinking about how can I accommodate them in my own home and nurture them and take care of them, like they took care of me, right. Kind of a thing like that.
Teach your kids that obligation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
one day you'll be depending on them.
Right. I mean, and I don't, neither my wife or I want to put a lot of burden on our kids. Hopefully, we will be healthy enough, or we will pass rather uneventfully, or things like that, where it doesn't require a lot of their involvement. But I think they're ready because we spent 13 years with my mom, taking care of her. So I think that kind of sets the standard in that sense of doing that. All right, Davos, the World Economic Forum, and the kind of the annual argument also about what's the carbon footprint. John Kerry doesn't seem to, who's leaving, and he seems to not. He doesn't like those carbon footprint questions.
It's his swan song. I guess he has told the Biden administration he's leaving as climate czar. Thankfully, without accomplishing anything. But it is funny to me, like how irrelevant that has become. Right? It's a scripted. It used to be you went there and you heard, new thoughts, new approaches to doing things. Right? So it was kind of, even as gaudy and weird as it was sort of worth keeping an eye on. But now it's Klaus Schwab, global warming. Now, I guess the big thing that's come up this year that hasn't been as big a deal before is, they're going to fight disinformation, right? Which is code word for, they're going to make everyone agree to leftist perspectives on everything and melt away the other views, right? But I mean, but that's about it. There's not really, it's not really the news making thing it used to be, which I think is good. And it seems to be sort of repetitive and redundant, as we used to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's still on one scale, it's still a large event, but the attention paid to it. I think, I kind of do wonder or think at least that, that the organizers are kind of like, we need to gather all these people, all the hoi polloi, and do all this stuff, and we want attention, but they have been hammered so much on the whole carbon footprint, with all the private jets and things like that. I think they're trying to minimize the left, and all the feelings about that, because even though you've got these liberals that attend this thing in droves, this whole overhang about, all these jets, and all the fuel and the pollution and all this carbon emitting, I think that has had a real profound effect on what Davos wanted to be. I mean, they can't, I think they would have loved to have been, expand this and do more, but they've been hammered on this, and and they have now become gun shy to the point where it's like, well, it's taking place, but we're not making a big deal of it.
Right, and it's there's wealth redistribution, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time when that was a popular concept, and now it's like you look at the graphs and it's like China hasn't lifted a finger to do anything about this. India's not lifted a finger to do anything about this. Again, China's run by engineers. They're looking at the data. They're saying, no, this is not a threat. This is not something we need to blow up our economy over. The hair on fire people in the U.S., let them blow up their economy on it. We don't need to do that. So, and so we still have a left wing dedicated to this, and they've largely moved on. They'll listen to as much yak in their ear as they have to, but they don't really care.
Yeah, I didn't look at. I didn't wonder. Is Greta going to be there? I wonder.
Yeah, I haven't even heard. So
yeah,
that sort of tells you there, right?
Right, and she's largely faded from the spotlight. We don't hear that much about her anymore either. Yeah. It seems that the movement.
I get this feeling like, I mean, I don't know this, right, but I think that she has come to see. I don't think she doesn't believe in global warming anymore, but I think she doesn't really believe in the structures that she's been railing against having the power to do anything about it, or the will to do anything about it. I think she is disillusioned about how she has gone about trying to get this changed. Like the mountain she tried to climb is not, right. At the end of the day, no one cares.
She came in as a young, idealistic teenager, and there's tons of those, but like you said, the structure, and you kind of wonder too whether or not she looks around and says, am I being effective? Can I really make things go? Or am I becoming a pawn of the movement because everybody's paid attention to me, and that they're really not interested in actually trying to find a solution as much as create a lot of PR and then use my image as this young girl, et cetera, et cetera. So, as she's growing up, she may come to a lot of realizations, and maybe there's some other things that are more important to her life than throwing all her effort into this.
Right.
Right.
And also, she's not a cute little kid anymore.
I haven't even seen a picture of her lately.
I mean, she's an adult now. So, I mean, now you're swimming in the same, the kids, you get kids who can speak, on issues like that. Ben Shapiro, he got the same thing, right? Oh, this young guy, he's already got these thoughts, So they all like worship Ben Shapiro for a while, and so it was the same thing with her, but now you're at the point where, you have to have substance behind what you say. You're held to the same standards as the adults, and the substance isn't there.
Yeah, and that does remind me of a lot of CPACs I went to where we had a lot of these kind of blossoming young college Republican types and things like that, and so they got a lot of attention at CPAC and state Republican conventions and whatnot. But really, once they moved on past their college years and they didn't really keep that up. They didn't have that fire in the belly. They weren't also attracting all that attention because they were no longer students.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, right. They poof. I mean, most of them are not even, as far as I can tell, or even involved anything remotely related to being in any kind of conservative / Republican movement at all. You know, they've just moved on. You know, Ben Shapiro would be one of the ones that has stuck through it, but you know, times have changed for him. You know,
right.
but yeah, that there is a very short window for those young people to kind of just jump on it, make hay, and you can build a career by it. But a lot of times, a lot of what they're doing is built on the fact that they are in school, and that they don't have if they don't have the leverage of saying I'm a student at Harvard or Cal Berkeley or whatever. It's not as good unless they're really articulate and they've got they've kind of had a follow-up.
They got an original thought.
Right. Exactly.
It's like the gun grabbers, you know, David Hogg and those guys.
Yeah.
You know, you don't really have an original thought.
Exactly.
You know, we've tried your approach and it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, I want to ask you about this. So the Scott Pressler who's talking about, I guess he has gotten gun shows to allow him to do voter registration. So one of the gun show companies, you know, he can follow them around, register voters at the thing. Do you think that's do you see a lot of unregistered people? Supposedly they said there's 60,000 hunters in Wisconsin who are not registered to vote. So you got to figure hunters, that's probably conservatives, right? Not 100%, but
yeah, I mean,
that's
an interesting thing. I mean, I think, you know, the older people, they're probably been a long time and, you know, they are registered, right? But as people groom, you know, as the younger hunters and gun owners are come on board, probably a little bit less of that involvement. You know, they're there for the sport and not for the politics so much. But someone like Trump or things like that can change that dynamic. If you've got the right message, you can attract that, and all of a sudden you can that's a group that definitely, anything that's a Second Amendment related, organization, hunting, all that stuff, even the knife owners, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. That's all fertile ground if you give them the right message as to why they need to be involved and do this. So yeah, and I think Trump is one of those guys who can carry that message, because of who he is, and affect that. But that's a good lead in also to the Iowa caucuses, which were just a sweep for Trump. Though Laura Loomer apparently wants a recount in Johnson County because one vote flipped. It's like, oh, there's something going on, and there's like, look, he won. He killed the competition. That's not, it's a caucus.
Well, here's the thing about it. I hear you. I'm with you that, I don't know how big a stink that you should raise about losing one county in the whole state by one vote. But it does seem like there was some monkey business thrown in to make that happen. It does also seems like a lot of Democrats became Republicans for a day to make that happen, right? You can same day switch parties to participate in the caucus. And that's, this was in Iowa City, where University of Iowa is, probably the most hostile to Trump county in the state. And he still almost carried it. So, I think that the ticket out of Iowa is, it's Trump's to lose, right? And also there seems to be agreement. One of the things that's come up at Davos is, what will we do next year when we're dealing with Trump? It's almost a fait accompli as far as the attendees of Davos are concerned that Trump will win this year. And it's becoming increasingly, you can see the Democrats, I guess you saw there was a thing this week, Mary McCord and some of them are going to organize to try to get to where if Trump orders the military to do something crazy, they will have a way to stop the military from doing it. Right? It's like, that's pretty darn close to treason, bro. You're getting between the commander-in-chief and the military, but that's what they're talking about. And when those kind of groups start coming together, it's because they're looking at the numbers and saying that Trump is getting close to unbeatable, right? That's where he stands right now. Everything can change. There's the wild cards of the court cases. It looks like now that it's possible that none of them make it to trial by then, because they all have to wait on each other, and they all have to wait on the immunity appeal, which Trump may win in the Court of Appeals. There was a ruling yesterday that suggested that the D.C. Court of Appeals is taking his immunity claims seriously. There's also the Section 1522 appeal, where they're saying that the way the law, a lot of these people, that J6 protesters, it's a big part of the Trump J6 Washington case, Jack Smith case, that they disrupted an official proceeding. It's a felony. They stuck the felony on these people for this, right? And so there's a challenge to whether that rule could even be enforced, right? That law is being enforced, right? And so maybe it's possible that all those convictions are kicked, and that basically destroys Jack Smith's D.C. case. The documents case, it looks like the judge wants more stuff from Jack Smith than he's willing to give. The Democrats are making some noise that it's obstruction, but you comply or lose. I don't really care, right? And obviously, Fani Willis will have huge problems bringing that case to trial, because I guess she hired her boyfriend, who was married to someone else, and paid him more than she offered to pay actual experts in the kind of law she's prosecuting. And the boyfriend has no experience doing anything like what he's doing. And we talked before about the filings in that case looked. People were writing that they looked, sort of curiously amateurish, right? Like, why do you have this big case? You're trying to bring down the guy who wants to be president again, and you're not even citing your legal findings and so forth in your filing. So, now we may know why the guy doesn't know what he's doing, right? So, and what I keep reading lawyers say this. I'm not an expert at it, but she could end up disbarred and perhaps even in prison herself, but because of the way she has handled this. So that was not looking real promising. And there was a ruling against Alvin Bragg the other day. So, the four indictments are all in various states of peril and in various states of they can't move forward right now. So once you get to about July, if the court comes down and says, okay, we can have these cases, then you have to, one of the things that Trump is fighting them over in court is, while they're waiting on these rulings on the immunity clause and the 1512, Jack Smith is still demanding documents. He's trying to keep this going. And so, the minute the court rules, we can jump out and start the trial, right? And the court has ruled that nothing should go forward until those rulings are finalized. So, Trump is saying, hey, the court said we're off until the rulings are finalized. So they're not finalized, so we're off. So I'm not providing anything. And the judges yesterday sided with him. They also sided with him over Jack Smith getting his Twitter data and the Twitter data of his users. You realize if you liked a Trump tweet or if you followed Trump, the FBI has a file on you now, right? That's a lot of us. That's a lot of,
I was going to say. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Including the news media who'd followed him, right?
That's right. So, that's the kind of stuff that they've done. And it's like they've expended all this effort to get Trump, right? To embarrass Trump, chase him out of the race. And these things, if you look at the stats, like Trump was actually, struggling. He was behind DeSantis, right? When they started indicting him. And as soon as they started indicting him, he went straight ahead and now has an insurmountable lead. Things have changed, right? It's very early in the thing. And there's this big debate over whether, I guess Ramaswamy got out after Iowa and endorsed Trump. Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis want to fight on. I think Nikki Haley is trying to get into the Chris Christie anti-Trump lane now. I'm not sure there's the votes there to do that, right? Why wouldn't you just elect Biden if you hate Trump? And the DeSantis, I don't see a way forward. I don't blame him for staying in because it's early. There really has been one one caucus, not even a primary yet. I mean, it really is early in the game, right? But it already looks like he doesn't have a path forward.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just, as quickly before we get to the end on this, is just, yeah. I mean, the Iowa caucus represents a very small fraction of the electorate, but it does give you a little bit of a picture of what's going on here with Trump. DeSantis, yeah, you stick around if you still got a little bit of money and then hope for something. But yeah, he and Haley, I mean, there's actually probably no path for either one of them. And I think on the anti-Trump, never Trumpers, I think a lot of those have faded away. I mean, as time goes along, I don't see the movement on that being as vocal or as strong as it was before. So this is not going to be as big a factor. If you're trying to get there, I mean, Chris Christie tried to get there and got zero traction. There's just nothing there. And, and what a colossal miscalculation on the part of liberals, the Democrats, thinking that, getting cases against Trump were going to kill his candidacy. As you said, he was behind DeSantis, but Trump has masterfully leveraged those cases, rightly, or wrongly, to his advantage, and his shot to the top has built a lead that I think is basically insurmountable. I mean, if he comes away with another, if there's enough of a gap between him and Haley in New Hampshire, it's just, I think, it's definitely over at that point in time.
Right.
And then I think the Democrats have got a lot to worry about.
Right, because then, you really will start to see the party unite. I think one of the curious ones is the DeSantis followers are intensely bitter right now. Right, they don't believe that, they think that they were robbed, and the network called it too soon and all this kind of stuff. And they're like, we're never reuniting, we're never voting for Trump and all. And it's like, what are you going to do in about 2 weeks when DeSantis is out and he endorses Trump, right? Are you still going to be angry at Trump, right? I mean, or are you going to say, it's Trump or Biden at this point, and, Biden is not preferable? I think that's what most of them will do. Some won't. There's a lot of like, Trump took our man off the thing and he's a great conservative and all this stuff. If you want to see DeSantis be president one day, then you should urge him to get out and get on the Trump train, because that's his best spot.
All right. So we'll end the regular show there, except for your final wrap up. Give you about a minute so we can stay under our limits.
Well, I want to talk about how the coaches disappeared, right? Pete Carroll and the same day, Nick Saban, which I thought I want to show you. You can see here behind me, right? You see the calendar and you see that sheet of paper. What's on that sheet of paper is Nick Saban's The Process. And I'm just going to turn around and read what it is. Eliminate the clutter, commit to being the best, work hard, be disciplined, battle human nature, have a positive attitude, do what's right, respect the game, focus on execution, move to the next play, ignore results, and embrace the journey. So basically he's saying, if you make a commitment to be the best and you're doing your best, that's your best, right? There's nothing to get mad about or upset about. Just keep working and moving to the next play. And it's really, that's really been a big thing to me. It's like, that's a guy I will miss as a coach. He's like, how to be a coach. He's one of the best we ever had.
Yeah. I'm going to say, just the SEC will never be the same without him. I mean, it's just it'll be completely different. I mean, good luck to Alabama and their efforts, but it's the Sabanless, team is just going to be very different.
Yeah.
And everything.
They got a good coach though. They got a
great coach. They got a great coach. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed it. Please, as always, stay safe and stay well. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. And God bless America. And we will see you again next week.